the old elm of Gorbio, speaking to you from the peace and tranquility of these my golden years. I would ask you to spare me a minute or two from your busy lives to listen to the ramblings of an old elm. I was planted here in the heart of my village in celebration of the Treaty of Utrecht some 308 years ago, although to be honest, I cannot remember much about that event, or any of my sapling years. In fact, I never really celebrated my birthdays at all until my third centennial. A truly momentous occasion I would like to tell you more about a bit later. During the early arrogant years of my youth, I focused much of my strength in the flexing of my branches and the increasing of my girth, and so was far too wrapped up in my vanity to notice happenings around me. Mind you, I did enjoy the antics of all the boisterous youngsters climbing up and all over my branches to play. At the same time, I was always very careful to ensure that the youngest little munchkins did not harm themselves as they explored my lower leafy limbs. Then early one morning in the spring of 1887, I know it was in springtime as I remember being in blossom at the time, there was a tremendous earthquake. Never seen anything like it before or since, and it caused a fair bit of damage to many buildings inside my poor village. Shook me right down to my very root tips too, it did. However, by then I was thankfully strong and healthy enough to resist. I think I can say that is when I learned a little humility though, which would serve me well later on. Many a year trundled on after that and I was left in peace to just be, and to observe the passage of time. Middle age was already upon me when one of the most momentous periods of my life occurred, and a very grim time it was, I can tell you. All the citizens of my dear village were placed under house arrest inside their homes whilst an army of fierce, foreign-sounding uniformed men marched up and down and paraded all around me. In the silence of the dark evenings though, I was proud to be privy to clandestine gatherings of a few brave rebellious individuals who wanted rid of these invaders and who planned their courageous resistance under my branches. After witnessing far too many bloody struggles, I am pleased to say they finally managed to have their way, and freedom was returned to my people once more. Afterwards, I enjoyed quite a number of blissful and uneventful years until the time I was very nearly killed during a severe thunderstorm. I cannot remember exactly what happened myself, but apparently I was struck by a bolt of lightning which left me paralyzed, blackened and ugly. All I know is that when I regained consciousness, I shed tears for the first and only time in my life. My villagers poured out of their houses to see me and many amongst them cried too. My memory is somewhat hazy of that interval in time as I was fighting bitterly for my life. Experts, farmers and well-wishers congregated around me, arguing and making suggestions. My existence was left hanging in the balance throughout the remainder of the winter. There are no words grand enough to tell you how relieved I was that spring arrived early that year. When I felt her invigorating vibrations coursing through my damaged limbs, I was able to send forth a smattering of green and all talk of felling was thankfully dismissed. They realized that, with a little help and encouragement, I was capable of pulling through, despite my trunk remaining entirely hollow. Yet more years passed, and although half of me was well enough to send forth healthy new branches, I remained but a husk of my former self. Eventually, about a decade before my 300th birthday, a tree surgeon, a true expert within his field, paid me a visit and gave instructions to my caretakers. Thanks to that man, my savior, we have been able to ingeniously disguise my handicap, and I am thrilled to say I have now regained a little of my former magnificence. My girth now measures 5 meters 60 centimeters, and I am told I was recently voted one of the 100 most remarkable trees in the whole of France. Anyway, back to the birthday party of a lifetime in 2013, when all my villagers reunited to celebrate my third century. For over a year, they had held meetings, planned and toiled over elaborate costumes. On the big day, I was groomed, decorated and fussed over, as all around me they flocked, holding hands, drinking, eating, dancing, making merry. Every single one of my cherished villagers dressed up in the costumes of their medieval ancestors, those who had planted my seed. What a truly wondrous celebration! You cannot begin to imagine how honored and proud I felt to be so revered. Throngs of outsiders even came to capture my image with little machines called television cameras. Since that wondrous birthday celebration, life has quietened again and I have been left in peace once more. This does not bother me in the SM.
The gossip train. Olivia sat, barely awake, watching her cartoons. It was early and she was nervous about starting the 7th grade. Her childhood cartoons were making her giggle, as always, and the banana pancakes her mom made felt like a familiar warm hug. She was almost feeling brave enough to conquer her fears until her mom, yapping away on the phone, turned the volume down on the TV, because she couldn't hear her gossip well enough. Now Olivia was left alone with her own thoughts. And all of her fears of her first day came rushing back. What if she didn't make any friends? What if no one talked to her? What if people didn't like her? What if people made up stories about her? What if, ready sweetie? Her dad interrupted her deep panic. She jumped, swallowed her nervous tears back and said I think so as bravely as she could muster. On the ride to school, trying to get her mind on something other than the day that lay ahead, she asked her dad, what was mommy so busy gossiping about this morning anyway? Her dad laughed and explained that there was a new neighbor that had everyone talking. Olivia got excited. A new neighbor? She repeated, clapping in anticipation. There weren't many kids around the neighborhood that were Olivia's age, most were much younger. She was already imagining this new neighbor having a daughter that was her age and the two of them growing up together, the best of friends. Now hold on there, Olivia's father interrupted. She stopped her fantasy dead in its tracks. Worried about the look on his face. We want you to stay away from this new neighbor, he continued. They are strangers, we know nothing about them. Olivia, disappointed, sat on her dad's statement throughout her school day. That wasn't how her parents typically acted with new neighbors. Her mom usually made a plate of warm cookies or one of her favorite dinner dishes to welcome new people when they moved in. Granted, her mom usually also took that opportunity to find out everything she could to either gain a new friend or to start the gossip train as Olivia's daddy called it. But to not give the neighbor a chance at all didn't make sense to Olivia. She decided that she would dig into it further after school. With her mind now occupied with cracking the case of the new neighbor, she actually had a pretty great first day. She was so distracted that she just didn't have time to worry about what other people thought of her. Her distraction ended up making her appear confident, and that resulted in several new friends talking and sitting with her throughout the course of the day. As soon as the bell rang and Olivia could get into her mom's car, she asked, why don't you like the new neighbor? Startled by the question, her mom explained, it's not that I don't like them, they're just weird. Stay away from them, she added. Olivia asked more questions, but they were all answered in the same vague way. Her mom finally explained that she did, in fact, make a plate of cookies and brought them to the neighbor a few weeks ago. However, the neighbor did not answer the door. Even though her mom could see her through the window, sitting right there, reading a book, her nose high in the air, her mom added. Olivia was then told a similar story, about another afternoon when her mom saw the neighbor outside getting her mail. Olivia's mom hollered to her, asking her to wait a moment, and the mystery neighbor just walked back into her house, sorting through her mail as if I didn't even exist, her mom sharply added. And so the gossip train had left the station and the moms were all full steam ahead. Olivia, even at her young age of 12, knew that there had to be a bigger story. Something was weighing on her heart about this neighbor. Why would someone move into a new neighborhood just to be all alone in the center of gossip and rumors? When questioning her mom's logic, Olivia's mom insisted this new lady either thinks that she is too good for us or she is hiding something. Either way, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Olivia felt awful. This poor woman was living out her worst fears. She then received some hopeful news. There was going to be a block party. Everyone on the block was invited, including the new neighbor. This was perfect. Olivia was so excited because this was a chance for the new, misunderstood mystery neighbor to clear everything up. She even asked her mom if she could help bake another batch of cookies as a new beginning, in hopes that her mom would see it that way as well. The evening of the block party came quickly. The scent of barbecue and the sound of music filled the air as the street filled with families mingling, meeting, laughing and drinking. Olivia could hear the moms talking about other moms, she heard the dads talking about sports and different barbecue tips. She smiled at the comfort of it all. She enjoyed hearing the laughter, the music and the little kids running around playing.